Hello, this is OldCrowBalthazor, and welcome to Balthazar Strategic Arcana. So I'm happy to announce that I have an upcoming multiplayer match. And I'm going to be playing one of the scenarios with the DLC Rise and Fall of an Empire. It comes with Strategic Command, World War II, War in the Pacific. I'm going to be playing Tanaka. Let's go and we'll talk about it. We're going to be playing Imphal-Kohima in 1944, which is a late war campaign where the Japanese tried to invade India. I got this on hot seat mode, and we're going to go take a look at the map, and we'll look at the strategy guide. I'm going to have the fog of war off. Also we'll look at with NATO counters and the battle space of NATO counters are 3D sprites. But if anyone's unfamiliar with this is a damn good scenario. So this is the whole entire map right here. Let me go into this zoom here. These are the Japanese forces. I'm going to be playing the Allies, which are comprised of Chinese, British, Nepalese, American, Indian troops. The Japanese have Burmese and Indian troops also. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So right now, I've got the fog of war off just so everybody can see the different fronts that we have here. This is the Arakan front right here. This is the Central Front, which contains some real important towns here, Imphal and Kohima. And these are actually in Manipur province, which is in India. This line here pretty closely conforms with the boundary of British India and Burma. There's a couple places different, where there's some differences, but here's Lido here. This is American force. This is Merrill's Marauders. Some Chinese units here, and some Chinese tanks. And up here we got some Burmese rifles. And over here in Yunnan province we have a Chinese army, which will get larger over time. Now it starts in March of 1944. There's 28 turns in this scenario, so it's kind of fast. So it'll get you in close to the summer when the monsoon rains come, and it's possible that towards the end of this scenario it will start raining and it'll get muddy. And if anyone's ever been in the jungle when it rains, well, it gets bad. You can't move or nothing. So let me go ahead and I'm kind of ramming here. This is unscripted. Go ahead, put the 3D sprites on. I have a hybrid counter mod, and I can't get it to work on here, which is kind of NATO, but you can see the silhouettes of the planes and tanks, and that's what I prefer. And I've been waiting for Unfortunate Son to get done. He's working on his counter set. He's still working on the Japanese, and then he's got to do the Chinese. He said he's going to get it done, so I would use those. These areas right here, Chindits are going to land here. Now, Chindits are British units. They paradrop down here, and more will come. So behind the Japanese lines. So what is the intention of the Japanese? Now this is in 44, so they're already losing badly in the Pacific, right? China is it's pretty much stagnant. I do believe they're going to try Ichigo here later on in the year, right? And they do a big expansion in China, big last effort, right? But this is what they want to do. What the Japanese want to do is to break in into Assam here, take like Dimapur, take Lido. It blocks support to the Chinese, the flying supplies in, and they want to try to cause an insurrection here in British India. So if we look closely here, there's different sectors. So we're going to get in close here. So what we have to do, and we'll look at the strategy guide, and we'll go look at, I'll read that too, and we'll look at the victory, how a victory can happen. The Japanese essentially need to take Imphal, and there's airfields in here too. So that's how aircraft move around. And they're going to want to try to take this in Kohima, and if they're lucky, or if they're good, or whatever, if we fail, if they get in Dimapur, that's a real bad thing because this is a rail line that goes up to Lido here. Now, Assam is tropical and semi-tropical. And there's a lot of tea plantations, but you see all the airfields here. So this whole area here is supported China. And I do believe there's still the Burma remnants of the old Burma Road somewhere in here. Oh, right here. Here's the Burma Road. Well, the Japanese sees that, so, and they've been here for years. So, but these are also objectives for the Allies if we can get into Wanting. And again, we'll go look at that. It's a vast area. So let me go back here. And again, I don't know if I'm going to use NATO. It's easier for me because I can just identify units immediately because I've been using NATO for decades and decades. More decades than I care to admit. So there's a pretty strong Japanese force here. These are naval units or special forces, so they're pretty strong. They got fortifications here. So are they going to push through all this? They could. We got a lot of British unit and Indian units here. Yeah, this is an Indian brigade. This is an Indian brigade. Indian brigade. Indian brigade. Mostly Indians. Anyway, they're going to want to protect. They don't want to lose Chittagong. That is another major victory for if the Japanese can get up here. This is where Bangladesh is now, by the way. Here's where's Dhaka at? Laksham. Well, it doesn't really matter. But there's this, and I think Cox's Bazar is down here. Here's Cox's Bazar. Yeah, that's kind of a famous place. And here's the Sundarbans, Tiger Country. But this is the Bengal, Bay of Bengal here. So Brahmaputra comes down here in the Ganges. So, and I think even Bhutan is up here. Yeah, here it is. I noticed that. Brahmaputra goes up into Tibet. It swings around and goes back that way. So anyway, the main effort, looking at all these Japanese, is going to be coming this way to Imphal, crossing these mountains. And this is going to be rough. I mean, the movement cost alone is like +2, right? And then you got rivers. Let's see if we force march somebody, how far they can go. It's going to be critical to have these towns because of supply. Supply is everything in this scenario. Well, it is in all war games, but in this one, it's really acute. And again, I'll talk about the British because I'm going to do the point of view of fog of war on, and you can see there's a big nothing out here. We're getting first contact with Japanese because the spotting range is about 2. It's going to be critical to use aircraft to not only to target other units or fight air battles, but to go just spot. Another really cool feature is there's air ferry rules. So you can, well, I'll have to show you in a British point of view again. You can ferry units from here to other airfields if you have the units on here, I believe. I did play this in the beta with Bill Renkier. Bill, if you watch this, that was fun. We went down to the wire. Oh my God, it was hardcore. Also here, after a certain amount of time has passed, I believe in April, Chinese units can be flown from here if they want to Lido, and then you're on a railhead here, and then you can move them if you wanted to. So let's go take a look at the strategy guide. Yeah, we can do that. Oh, I already had it going. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, here we go. So, Imphal-Kohima, 1944. Japan's invasion of India and the battle for Burma. The day when the resistance shall proclaim our victory in India is not far off. When we strike, we must be absolutely ready, reaching our objectives with the speed of wildfire. Yeah. And knowing Tanaka, it will be wildfire. Lieutenant General Mutagachi's proclamation to the Japanese 15th Army, 18th February, 1944. Now, I read up on this. I got deep into this, and I I saw images and I lost them. I'll see if I can find them again. Maybe I'll post them later. Japanese actually disassembled vehicles. I mean, had parts of chassis of small trucks or Jeep-like vehicles on their backs with axles, and they humped them over these mountain ranges and got them on the other side and reassembled this. And this includes artillery too. It's crazy. Okay, the scale. The map stretches from Calcutta in the west to Palishan in the east, and from Ledo in the north to Three Pagodas Pass in the south. Anyone knows about Three Pagodas Pass? That's the pass into Thailand. If you play the Grand campaign. With each hex representing approximately 12.5 clicks or 8 miles in every turn, covering 3 days using simultaneous turns. All right. Here are the victory conditions, so it's really important. On this one battle rests the fate of the Empire. Lieutenant General Tanaka. All right, Tanaka. And I'm playing Tanaka, an old sparring partner of mine. Note, all victory objectives are marked with a red star outlined in yellow. There are also national morale objectives. This is a really cool feature. Came out when I first noticed that in the beta of the Pacific War in the Pacific beta. Everybody liked that. You could find it on a map. Really easy. Axis decisive victory. You got to take Akyab, Dimapur, Imphal-Kohima, Imphal-Kohima, and Wanting. Imphal-Kohima and Wanting are over towards the east. Kohima and Imphal are in the center, which we saw in Manipur province. Dimapur is just north of Kohima, and that's a rail line goes in there, and it's an airfield. You don't want to lose this. And Akyab is in the west. Axis minor victory. Akyab, Imphal-Kohima, Wanting, either Dimapur, Imphal, or Kohima. So they only have to take one of these three. Now, historically, the British did not lose any of these, but they were totally surrounded by the Japanese. Till the Japanese, it just broke down on them because of supply, and then the rains came, and they were weak. They finally had to withdraw later on past the scope of the scenario. Allied decisive victory, Chittagong, Dimapur, Imphal, Kohima, Ledo, Metayanki, and Wanting anytime. So these are held by the Japanese, Metayanki and Wanting. So if I wanted a decisive victory, I'd have to just keep what I own and take these two. Well, they're kind of close to the Chinese border, the northern part of Burma, but I'm going to have to throw all my rabbits, let's just say, that I'm going to be pulling on my hat to save myself to guard these three right here, Dimapur, Imphal, and Kohima. Ledo will be kind of hard for him to do unless he redirected force up there somehow. I don't know. And Chittagong, well, if we failed on the coast, you go up the coast. And that is a possibility. There's a couple of ways it could be done. Allied minor victory is Chittagong, Dimapur, Imphal, and Kohima, and Ledo on June 1st, 1944. And this is actually historical here. Metayanka didn't fall until 1945, though they did get close during the scope of this campaign. And in the beta match I played with Bill, I actually did take it for a very brief time. Well, anyway, and he won that one. He got a minor. Axis minor victory because he got Imphal and Kohima, but I held him off at Dimapur. So it went off from the historical truth. So national morale locations. So there's different values. So if you lose Imphal or Kohima, that's pretty bad already. Ledo's really bad, but what's super bad is losing Dimapur. And again, when we do the Allied point of view, we'll look at that a little more closely. And there'll also be the stark realization you can't see the Japanese. You just know they're coming. Like Zulus. The strategic situation, Axis plans. Having realized that the Allies are preparing to launch an offensive into Burma, Lieutenant General Kawabe, commander of the Japanese Burma Area Army, has decided to launch a preemptive strike of his own to disrupt Allied plans. Ambitious to win fame and glory, Kawabe hopes that if this attack, codenamed Operation Yugo, is successful, then it will just be the start of a bigger, more far-reaching offensive, one that can conquer India and possibly even end the war. Now, that is pretty damn ambitious. I don't know about conquering India, but it would sure cause some huge political problems for the British and for the Allies. Japanese aim is to advance at top speed to isolate Imphal by taking either Bishpur in the southwest and Kohima to its north. The British and Indian forces in Imphal will then be destroyed, freeing up Japanese forces to advance towards Dimapur via Kohima. With Dimapur in Axis hands, supplied Allied forces northeast India will be cut, thus frustrating General Stilwell's attempts to strike south with a mixed U.S.-Chinese force through the Huqing Valley to Mithya-Yankin. And we'll look at that again when we do look at the just from the Allied point of view with fog of war on. In addition, should Dimapur fall, U.S. supply planes will no longer be able to supply the Chinese with war material, and this could have a catastrophic effect on China's ability to continue war. And what's interesting, anytime I air ferry any units around, there's a little bit less money that goes to China because the air hump, the ferrying of supplies over the hump, that's basically what they called it, into China, is going from these airfields. So if I divert any resources, like bringing troops in to an airfield from another airfield, because I can do that. It costs money, but it also costs. There's money that's lost going to the Chinese. It's not real significant, but it could add up. So, taking part in the defense there are also units of Subha Chandra's Bose Indian National Army. These are on the Japanese side. Some units belong to the collaborative state of Burma are also in reserve areas. These can be brought forward as necessary. Now, when I was playing the beta, I started doing a deep dive. I was aware of how many Indian troops that the Japanese actually had. A lot of them were captured, at Singapore and Malaya, right? It was like 100,000. And then, like in the campaign games, you could form a corps. But I didn't realize how many Indian units were actually used here against their fellow Indians. Pretty remarkable. So when we were playing the game, I identified one Indian unit. It was Indira Gandhi Brigade. I'm looking at this and going, oh, okay, there it is. There's the token Indians. Until more started showing up, along with the Japanese. So we will be seeing that. Kawabe hopes to capture all objectives before the monsoon begins in May, as operations will slow down thereafter and will be terminated no later than the 1st of June. So yeah, when I played, the first time I played this in a beta, my wife is from Laos, and I know Southeast Asia pretty good, and I, when it starts to rain, it just don't stop, and it's hot and muggy, and it's just miserable. And if you go off any paved roads, you're going to be getting stuck in it. And on top of that, the snakes come out. I mean, it's nasty. And can you imagine in areas like Burma where there's hardly any infrastructure at all, and you're in the mountains, and a monsoon comes, you don't even want to get out of your bivouac, man. You just want to eat and sleep, man. So anyway, Japanese reinforcements, 3 sets of reinforcements will arrive during the campaign. The Take force, a special force unit, will form at Mandalay in the first 2 weeks of April, playing there opposite the Chindits. 43rd Division, consisting of 1 HQ, Takeda, 3 regiments, and a field artillery unit will deploy at Mandalay on the 14th of March. 44, and the 54th Division, consisting of 1 HQ, 2 regiments, and a field artillery unit will deploy at Mandalay. Here's a good idea what it looks like there. And that's in a kind of a cultivated area. You can see some of the mountains they have to get through, and there are no roads. Allied plans. British Imperial forces need to hold Imphal-Kohima and Dimapur in order to frustrate Japanese plans. Reinforcements will be arriving from southern India throughout the campaign as displayed in the production queue, and these can be flown straight into action from airfields near Komil. Now, we'll look at that when we go back to map, and I just show the Allied point of view. It may also be possible to move some troops from the Arakan region on the west coast to reinforce these troops fighting around Imphal. I'm not going to discuss any strategy here because Tanaka will probably be watching this, and I have a variety of different things that I can do to frustrate his plans. Well, hopefully. Additionally, the Allies have a trick up the sleeve in the shape of Ord Vungate's Chindits, who are about to land behind Japanese lines in the area to the southwest of Imphal-Kohima, and we saw those. That's the initial drop points. There'll be a lot more of them that come. And then even Wingate will show up in HQ later on. If the Chindians can link up with Merrill's Marauders and the Chinese advancing south from Ledo under Joseph Stilwell, then they have the potential to distract and therefore disrupt the Japanese offensive on Imphal and Kohima. Their success could also facilitate a Chinese offensive from Yunnan province to liberate Wanting and even advance in Burma. And yeah, the Chinese later on in the scenario, and well, later on as the month progresses, I believe in April, they start getting a lot of troops. And Operation Thursday, there's an interesting picture. We'll see. Under codename Operation Thursday, yeah, Wingate's forces are to march and fly to Inda rail area to threaten Japanese rear in order to assist the U.S.-Chinese advance on Imphal-Kohima, and which in turn will enable the Yunnan Chinese to attack and link up with Stilwell so that the Burma Road can be reopened. Now, that's not going to be easy. Further reinforcements will land at one of the airfields in Inda, if possible. Otherwise, somewhere further north in Burma. 14th Brigade, 23rd of March. 3rd West African Brigade on the 6th April. Yeah, I was thinking Africa. Additionally, HQ will land in the area to command these forces towards the end of March, and that will be Wingate. Once Allied units have taken them, the Chindit landing grounds will provide supply to Allied forces, but the supply level of newly captured airfields increasing from 0 to 1 per turn. If lost, these airfields will provide an eligible supply to Allied forces. I'm mumbling. Sending Chinese forces to India from the 15th of April, 1944, China can send 1 unit a turn from Yunnan province to Ledo in India. To do this, simply have a Chinese unit end its turn on the airfield. That hex 9725, and it will fly out, arriving in India ready. That's at Ledo. Or it'll fly out, arriving in India, ready for action its next turn. It lands in Ledo. However, the time required for loading and unloading a unit will impact U.S. supply flights to China over the hump, and this will reduce Chinese income by 5 MPP. So it's kind of negligible. Resource income. Every country has a set income that is sourced from its major capital, so capturing resources will not change income levels. Purchasing units. All units can be purchased. We'll have to build delay of 6 turns, and of 3 if they're destroyed with a supply level 5 or more. Now, if you want to buy new units, for one thing, money's going to be tight. You got to do it very early in the scenario, which means buying fresh units unless you have something die right off the bat, and it's in supply. So it's real essential to try to defend your position in supply 5 or better. That's a lot easier said than done with all these jungles and mountains. All right. Airfields have a maximum strength of 8. Some are classed as primary supply centers to represent the ability the Allies had to fly supplies in to these airfields while they were besieged. This provides the Japanese a strong incentive to besiege and capture these airfields in order to achieve victory at Denport and Imphal. Again, we'll look at the map real close when I show the Allied point of view. Placing 2 more Axis units adjacent to these airfields will reduce their strength by 1 per turn, as flights are impacted or worth, as supply points will be reduced. Now, I actually had this happen where I had Japanese right next to the damn airfield, and but I was still able to hold them for quite a while. So it gets that close. I mean, the fighting will get close. It'll be bloody. They're gonna be in grips. They're gonna be in a death embrace. Well, I'm sure Tanaka can't wait for that, since he likes to be so aggressive. This will be particularly useful when besieging Imphal, as reducing or better still seizing the nearby airfields will quickly impact the defender's supply and ability to resist. And that is it. So I'm going to take a break for a second, and I'll show you guys Allied point of view. I'll see you in a minute. All right, I'm back. So we're going to show first the Allied perspective with fog of war on. So with fog of war on, you don't see a lot of the Japanese units here. So let's just go zoom in here. Let's just start at the front here. So I got fog of war on. And I'm going to use the NATO counters. And we can swap back and forth. So you can see here, I can see the bulk of the Japanese forces are right here. I can identify the ones that we're next to. They're relatively weak. I'm not going to move any units. So they're fortified here, so the British can't move down here deeper in the Arakan. Here's the Caladan Valley. It's relatively isolated, but it is a valley, so we don't want them moving up and behind us. Interestingly here, let's go on out and take a look at this. Here's the airfields. Placing it here, and it will be flown to Tuli near Imphal. This also goes to an area near Imphal, or Imphal, Maine. The Maine, and we'll look at those in a second. This can go to Damper. So if you have units here, because we will get units, we can also move them that are already on the map. If we go to the production, this is what the British are going to be getting. This is what the Americans get, nothing. There's very few American units in this that were in the theater here. Here's the Chinese using their whole divisions. So we've got different size units here. If we go back down here, their brigades, their regiments. Some of these are pretty strong, though. So brigades and regiments on the whole, and some abstract units like anti-aircraft units, artillery. So if we wanted to air ferry units, I mean, we could bring them by rail from somewhere, walk them in, or they usually deploy in this area, a lot of them. You can march them in here, and you can fly them. Now, it's going to cost us some money to do it, but it's not a lot. So, these are some of the airfields you're going to want. Well, you have the option here, Tulil, Imphal, or Dimapur here. So these are real key, especially these two, key airfields to hold. And if you go just look at the terrain here, this is real interesting here. There's a rail line that goes to Silchar, and there's a dirt road. There's a mule track. So this is a way to also get units in here if you had to. I mean, you could fly them. So it's going to be critical that I try to hold this area because the Japanese are going to be coming. And we know from looking at the dispositions without Fog of War on how many there were out here. Now, you can see them. They're coming out of the woodwork already, right? And these guys are going to be able to get in here behind me at Tazong. So the British or the Indians, the Allies, they were relatively surprised. Yeah, they're virtually all Indians. I do have some Nepalese units. And there's a tank here, Indian Armor Brigade. And again, I'll be getting, here's a Nepalese brigade here. The Sure Regiment. I believe I'll be getting another one. And so there are garrison units. They're pretty weak, but they can hold if they have to. Supply, not too bad. So we'll be falling back in pretty good, decent supply. The Japanese, however, they got to maintain supply to get into me. So that's where their HQs and taking these towns is going to be critical. So down here, it's not a huge issue. Again, you start getting into here, you can actually, unless you have an HQ, you can get stuck. And that can happen in some of the hills here too. So anyway, we'll turn that off. Yeah. So don't have a lot of units, but I will be getting units. So I've got to do an active defense, and I can't be totally passive though. But I got to be careful about casualties. But I can't just let them walk on me. We're going to have to resist them. So these tanks are pretty strong. They have light tanks too. Japanese do. But these would, I would assume, be medium tanks. So yeah, they're fairly strong. Now, looking over here, here's where the Chindits start landing. So these actually show up at the end of the Japanese turn, and I ran Japanese turn. So I'm going to show the Japanese, since Tanaka is not a YouTuber. I decided I'll go ahead and show what the opening pop-ups are and what his orders are, and then I won't move any units, and I'll show the pop-up where all of a sudden the Chindits come, and they already start doing damage to surrounding areas. So some of these places here, they're named. These are Chindit bases, or if I take them. So, and they're labeled Aberdeen, White City, Trinity, I guess, Broadway, and there's Blackpool. So you can see it kind of cuts the Japanese off. There's just the dirt roads up here to Wanting, which is one objective I would like to take. And there's a small Japanese force that's dug in real well in these mountains along Burma Road. And this is essentially the border between China. And if you look on the bottom, well, it says China here. I'm looking to the left, Burma. So it follows the boundary pretty close. I asked to have the boundaries on there. There's a couple places where it's actually in Burma. This is actually in Burma right here, so the border must went through here. You know, there's not much of a difference because Burma was British also. Well, it was. It is legally. Over here, this is this is interesting here. We've got Merrill's Marauders. Go ahead and again, I don't know which ones I'm going to use. Aesthetically, these are pleasing, so we'll see. But this is Mars Force here. Here's Merrill. Here's Stilwell right here. And he's American, but commander of Chinese. So, yeah. And what do we have here? Okay, now this is a real British unit here, the LRP, Long Range Patrol Brigade. Yeah, and they really got themselves out here. I don't know what they intend to do. We'd never be able to make it here unless we brought Stilwell down here. But the main objective is to go down the Hukawang Valley, or try anyway. Now it'll be Japanese here, and he's got a rail line. It's going to be essential we try to block these. And I don't think it's going to be that easy, as you can see. No. So we'll try to link up. And anyway, I don't want to discuss strategies again. There's a couple of things that we can do with these guys. And we've got the Burmese rifle up here. We've got American planes here, Cochrane. Yeah, 1st Air Commando fighters and the 1st Air Commando tactical bombers. It's going to be real useful, and you can see how far we can fly. So, and Japanese have fighters, and yeah, if we can find them on the ground, well, more power to us. But it'll be nice to be able to take these airfields if we can. And here we got a little bit of air. We got tactical bombers, but the fighters are critical. So you see, I can start doing air caps, or air patrols, I mean, not air caps. Here, air cap. Yeah. So, pretty wide ranging. And last but not least, at least from the Allied point of view, is the Chinese. So, this will get us to Lido here if I want to bring any units in, but I can't do it till the 15th of April. So, it's quite a long time. We definitely don't want the Japanese to come up the valley or across the mountains, across the border here. We could try to push into places like this, but well, we'll see. I'm not going to discuss strategies. There's also a way you maybe get around behind them, because it could get dangerous for him. You might have to divert forces, and I generally do not. I don't use national colors on purpose because of weather, but that's, so it looks like mud to me. But and the colors between British and Japanese are virtually, they're real close, right? And if the mud comes, there's going to be areas where there will be mud. I want to know exactly where it is, and the rain too. So I generally don't use those. I do use them every once in a while. If for example, on other maps, especially where I need to establish who's actually got control, a real good example is if you're playing World at War or War in Europe or the TRP, one of the TRP mods or any other mod, especially in Europe and the Soviet Union, when you got the Italians, it's 1943 and the Italians are on the back foot, and as an Axis player they're going to surrender. If you have any Italian units in the Soviet Union when they surrender, any hexes they've been into, including the ones they occupied and maybe previous hexes, will revert to red control. So I've had rail lines break. So you definitely want to check and see where that is. So you can use Axis Allies miners or German units to go and sweep them. Sweep those areas clean and reestablish control before they turn red. And that's historically true too. I mean, when the Italians did surrender, well, they had occupied a lot of rear areas. In the scope of this, territorial colors is going to not be necessary. It's pretty evident, you know, to see just from line of sight and everything like that. What you can see here. So, all right. So I think that is it. So we know they're coming. The dinks are in the woods here. You can look here. There's a Jeep track, and you know they'll be using that. And they're going to be coming this way to Sheham Saddle. And they're going to be definitely coming up here through the Lushai Hills and the Chocolate Staircase. And this is going to be untenable real quick. Guaranteed. So I'll go ahead and I'll take a break here. It's only about 91 degrees outside right now. It's in the evening here in the Pacific Northwest, and I had to turn off my fan and my air conditioner, or you wouldn't be able to hear me. And so I'm feeling like I'm in Burma right now in my den of iniquity. All right, we'll see you guys in a minute. All right, I'm back, and so we're going to briefly look at a Japanese opening move. I won't move any units, but this is what you would be seeing, or Tanaka, my opponent's going to be seeing. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to have Fog of War on. So we'll see. This is pretty interesting, right? When you play these multiplayer games on YouTube, I'll use the 3D sprites because I know he'll be using them. He chastises me for using NATO all the time. All I know is, well, I'm not going to say what I think. I'm actually pretty neutral now. I use both. All right, we'll just do that. Okay, so Operation Yugo, the invasion of India. The coming battle is a turning point, which will denote the success or failure of the Greater East India War. You must capture Dinapur, Imphal, and Kohima. At the same time, we must retain Akyab, Mityanga, and Wani. So Akyab's in the south, so he has to hold that. We'll go find out where that is. Reinforcements in the shape of the 53rd Division will be arriving soon. We covered all this in May. Regarding death as something lighter than a feather, it must be expected that your forces will be almost annihilated. But on this one battle rests the fate of the Empire. Damn! Lieutenant General Kawabe, CNC, Burma Area Army. Okay. Okay, and this is the march on Delhi is about to begin. So this is the propaganda that both was, and the Japanese were springing on their Indian troops. Men and women in the Indian National Army, our time has come. Together with our Japanese allies, we're about to begin our march on Delhi to overthrow the British Raj. Our fight is a fight for India's independence. And as we advance, we can expect to be joined by thousands upon thousands of volunteers. Western imperialism is about to end, and a new era of Indian history is about to begin. Let's advance to victory under a banner of provisional government of free India. Subhas Chandra Bose, CNC, Indian National Army. Now let's go look at his forces. So here's some Indian Army. Here's the Gandhi Regiment right there, Free India. The Azad Regiment, Free India. That's up by Kashmir. Oh, damn. And here's another one. The Nehru. Oh, there's another personage of the anti-British coalition. Right, Free India. So, all regiments. 7th Air Brigade. Who's this? Yamauchi. A mere garrison. But blocks the road for me getting in behind him. Would I want to? I doubt it. So here's his force here. So he does have a tank regiment. Now, when I use NATO, I believe that it denotes... We can look at the properties. That's a light tank. It is. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I've seen that before because I was using... I had forgotten. We go back. So it's not a heavy tank. Let's go. We looked at the properties of our tank, at least the Indian one. I didn't check the Chinese. Yeah, see, their attack failures are less. They're definitely less than what the Allies got. But we still got some hitting power here. Let me go back and look at this. Yeah, action point 6. That's going to be critical in these rough areas. Everybody else can go. Well, the infantry, five action points. So yeah, you get hung up in these hills unless you're going to try to force march your way in. Here, let's go look at his ranges. Right, but if I got planes up here, I can intercept. So there'll be lots of air battles, almost guaranteed. This place called the African Way. So we'll look down here. Where's that? Oh, here's Akyab down here. Okay, down the Arakan coast. Right. Quite beautiful too. Unfortunately, Myanmar is in a big civil war. I hope the regime does fall. It's an evil regime. So they can see Chinese here. I'm sure he's perceived that there's a gaggle of Chinese here, but yes, these are probably enough units that can hold me. But we don't know. He doesn't have a lot here. So he's got Japanese, and I believe he's got Burmese units. Yeah, garrisons. It's still interesting, the Burmese. Here's Chiang Mai. So this is Thailand here. Yeah, I can see there's no boundary, but if you hover and look down to the left, in the box down below, it says Thailand. Thailand. And here's Burma. Of course, the boundary goes, here's the Salween River. So here's Rangoon. Yeah, so, and here's Momin, and here's Pagoda's Pass. And that's Burma. And then here's Thailand. So the boundary goes right in here. Yeah. So on the way down would be, well, ultimately Bangkok. So this is northern Thailand right here. And it's way out of the scope of this scenario. However, this map could be used for, I would love to see the 40 campaign and Vinegar Joe trying to get away. Right? Which he did. Barely. So I'm not going to move because there's another pop-up here. Let's go center over. So he is aware as soon as he starts his turn that there's already been Chindits that are here. They've secured these areas. So we'll see what happens when he ends a turn. Yeah, he's going to get this pop. Wingate's Chindits land behind Japanese lines. Chindit landings cause fear and confusion behind Japanese lines. And then that's how much money they collect. So de facto, I get units, at least a couple here, but more will come. So there you go. So anyway, well, this is OldCrowBalthazor. Thanks for watching. I don't know when we're going to do. I don't know when we're gonna do. I don't have a schedule yet. I'm gonna put this up. We're speed down this. And I will talk to him, but it was going to come pretty quick. And so I'll post my community page, probably on the forums, different places, the actual schedule. I do intend to do it daily. I do have other projects, and thank you to a couple of people that we postponed a couple of things start dates. I got other YouTube multiplayer collaborations going on, both with Strategic Command and with Field of Glory Empires, where we're going to be having a 10-player multiplayer match. But anyway, and that won't be even seeing that till late fall or winter. But definitely there's going to be another. Oh, it's going to be TRP Europe with Taxman. So there's a little Easter egg for you if you stick around and watch this whole entire video. All right, with that, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the likes and any comments. And yeah, this one's long-winded, but I thought it'd be nice to show exactly what we got with this scenario. It's going to be fast and furious, and there's going to be a lot of excitement, I believe. All right, we'll see you guys later on Virtual Battlefields. I am gone.